Talk, New York and beyond. My name is Reese Kay, and with me here today is Raymond Regas, Millennium TV's legal consultant. We're being broadcast today by Millennium TV to the U.S. and around the globe. Today we'll be discussing personal injury claims. I know a lot of our viewers are going to have a lot of questions about this. Can we walk through a typical scenario of what
Absolutely.
might happen? Okay, so let's say my daughter, who's 18 years old, is driving. She gets into a car accident. She has a friend with her in the car, and the passenger has an injury. I don't know if it's considered serious or not. What's the first thing I do?
Well, the first step is you got to notify your insurance company. Because if you don't do that, then your insurance company could deny coverage.
Okay,
And-
so is it my insurance? Is it my daughter's insurance? Or the passenger's insurance? Or what about the other car?
Well,
who
that,
hit us?
that is a very important question because your daughter now is 18 years old. I'm
Right.
going to assume she's had a license a year or two.
Yes.
I'm going to assume that you notified your insurance company that your daughter got her license and that she lives with you.
Absolutely. We did all that.
But if you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
your insurance company can say, you're on your own, pal. I'm not going to defend you. Your insurance company can deny coverage based on the fact that you tried to save a few dollars by not notifying the
Okay,
insurance
so
company.
before the accident even happens, I got to make sure that every driver is covered. So, okay.
And that could be costly depending on where
Okay,
you live.
all right, gotcha. So first of all, make sure everybody's insured, number one. Okay, so she's got insurance. I call my insurance company, let them know what happened. Now what?
Well, your insurance company is going to want to investigate the claim. And their primary purpose in investigating the claim is to know what their exposure is. Their exposure is determined by a couple of factors. The first factor is, what are the policy limits? If it's a small minimum policy in New York, which is a minimum of $25,000 per individual, $50,000 per case, then they know what their exposure is. And they're not going to be so worried about their investigation.
Okay.
But if it's a big policy, they're going to send over their team of investigators right away to try to determine what happened.
But so does it matter whose fault it was, the accident? I mean, let's say someone cut my daughter off. It was clearly not her fault. She had to slam on the brakes.
That's a great-
Someone ran a red light. Is this her fault? Is this going to mean...
Well, that's a two-part answer to that.
Okay,
It's very important.
Okay.
Fault always matters. But there's also something called no-fault insurance, where it doesn't matter.
okay,
I'll give you an example. Whoever was in your car, if they sustained any injuries and they had to undergo any medical treatment, your insurance company will pay for that medical treatment, no matter whose fault it was. That's why it's called no fault.
okay.
up to a
So
certain limit.
this passenger broke a leg, we'll say.
Interesting you should say that. Okay. So she broke her leg and she has some medical bills.
Yep.
Your insurance company will pay that.
Okay.
My question is, who caused the accident?
Okay, it was
Was it your
definitely
daughter?
not my daughter's fault.
It was the
It's
other
not, I'm not
person.
just saying that because it's my daughter. It was
Two-car
the other-
accident?
It was a two-car accident. The other guy cut her off. She slammed on her brakes.
The car ran a red light, perhaps?
Yes, the other car ran a red light.
There's a witness to that?
Yeah, and also he was drinking.
Let's get his name.
Okay, but so
And,
let's.
and that's a risky point.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that separately. Let's
Right.
assume he just ran a red light.
Okay,
You submit a claim against their insurance company.
do I do this or does
Your
my
lawyer,
insurance
will,
company
your
do it?
lawyer will do that.
Okay, so I have to get a lawyer.
You don't have to, but you should. Because if you don't, you're going to miss a lot of deadlines, or you may completely not know how to submit your claim, and the insurance companies on the other side might very well decide to not pay what the case is worth.
Okay, so now what I'm hearing is before the accident even happens, make sure everybody's insured. If you get into any kind of accident that's serious, and I guess by that, what do we mean by serious, with serious injuries?
Fortunately, New York law is very clear on that regarding motor vehicle accident cases only. And I made a list about what the New York law statutes say. They're very limited about
Okay.
what a serious. Let me just back up.
Mhm.
Under New York law, for motor vehicle accident, you're technically not allowed to bring a lawsuit
Mhm.
unless you have a serious injury.
Okay.
And the statutes clarify they specify what a serious injury is. First thing is a death,
Okay,
a dismemberment,
okay.
a significant,
What's a dismemberment?
you lose a limb,
Oh, okay, that's it.
lost your arm, lost your leg,
Okay.
serious, no one
Okay.
can argue.
Okay,
Next, a significant disfigurement, such as a scar,
okay,
a fractured bone,
okay,
permanent loss of use of a body organ, member, function, or system.
Okay, so
Okay?
if I can't, even if I didn't lose my hand, but I can't use my hand,
You got a
that's
case.
serious
It's a
injury.
serious injury, and, and you're allowed to proceed.
Okay.
What else? Significant limitation of use of a body, function, or system. Before that was member, a permanent consequential limitation.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So all of these constitute serious injuries. So if that happens, I really should. The next step should really be getting a lawyer. I mean,
Right. To
let the
pursue a
insurance
claim.
company know and get a lawyer so that we can figure out who's going to be paying for what.
Right, now remember, there are two parts to the claim.
Okay.
Economic loss and pain and suffering. The economic loss should be covered by your own no-fault insurance. What does that mean? Let's assume your daughter had a job and she can no longer work. She has a certain amount of economic loss, and her no-fault should pay up to a certain percentage of that.
Okay. Let's say the car was totaled.
The owner of the car would have a claim against them as well. So there are two claims now. The owner of the car that might
Which
be
is
the
me.
parent, you'd have a claim against the other car.
Against the
Owner.
other driver who was at fault.
Driver and owner. Sometimes it's not the driver, but it's the
Okay.
other car, the other insured party.
Okay.
Okay?
So we have to take care of any loss that my daughter suffered from this.
Right.
The loss of my car.
Right.
We have to pay her friend's medical bills who broke her leg.
Correct.
Okay. And then we're hoping to get all this money from the guy who was at fault, from
Well,
their
let
insurance
me
company.
explain something.
Okay.
Your friend
Mm.
may not be a friend for too long.
Ooh,
Okay.
that sounds like a good place to take a break.
Fine.
We'll be right back after this break. So welcome back. After the break, we were left off talking about how your friend may not be your friend in a car accident.
Here's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Your friend
Mhm.
will be contacting an attorney. The attorney will say, you're a passenger in a two-car accident. Sorry to say this, but you have a claim now against both cars.
So my daughter's best friend is now going to sue her? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Because that lawyer's responsibility is to maximize recovery. And if the other party is, say, 90% at fault, and maybe your daughter was 10% at fault, he wants to get 10% from the party that's to make the party whole.
Okay, so this is obviously my daughter's most worried about this, what's going to happen with her friendship. Obviously, if her friend sues her and we have to pay for this, that's not going to be great.
What I tell my clients in that case is, listen, the real party that's going to pay is the insurance company.
Okay.
It's not going to be your daughter. Your daughter is an intermediary. Your daughter is like the gateway to the insurance company, because the only ones that ever pay here are generally insurance companies.
Okay, but so that makes us wonder something else. Does that mean now our premiums are going to go through the roof?
Generally, it does go up, and it goes up automatically when you're involved in an accident, even if it's not your fault. So it really doesn't matter
Well, that
whether or
doesn't
not a
really-
claim is presented.
That doesn't really seem fair, does it?
It's not. There are ways of fixing that. Like you can appeal any raise of insurance policies. You can also take driver education courses, and that helps reduce rates.
Okay, so if this accident happened, regardless, our premiums are going to go up.
I think so.
Okay. And you're saying there's really nothing we could do about that except try to fix it later by reducing it through other means.
Correct.
I know, for example, my daughter is a great student. She gets a good student driver discount.
I'm not
actually.
surprised.
I think you have to maintain a certain GPA, and you can get like a 10% or 5% discount.
Right.
So we could try to get back to where we were by
Right.
these means. Okay. So you said that it depended on the fault, right? So let's say the other driver, we said, what if he was drunk when he was doing it? How does
See,
that change
my
things?
problem with that is that let's assume he's drunk. Let's assume he's high on crack. Let's assume he's a really bad hombre. Let's assume that. His insurance company may decide to go ahead and deny coverage. Okay? And because of that, the question is, can the injured party still collect?
And who would they be collecting from?
Good question. Let's assume that scenario where the injured party has a claim against a drunk driver and they for some reason his insurance company for the drunk driver doesn't want to pay, well, there are various options. Let's assume that injured party has a home policy. She goes home, visits her parents at college. And her parents have an automobile policy.
Okay.
She can probably submit a claim against the uninsured motorist, against her parents' policy under the uninsured motorist provision.
Okay. So her parents might have coverage in case there's an accident involving someone who's not insured.
Right. That's called a UM claim, an uninsured motorist claim.
So even though he actually has insurance, but his insurance company just doesn't want to cover it because he was drunk or whatever,
right.
That's still the same thing?
Right. So what happens is there would be a process in court to decide who covers. That's called a declaratory judgment action, to decide which insurance company is going to be on the hook for this.
Okay, so meanwhile, I've retained a lawyer. Weeks are going by, medical bills are piling up, nothing's been decided yet, and I'm paying legal fees?
You don't pay the lawyer, thank goodness. The lawyers take these cases on a contingency fee basis.
What does that mean?
What that means is they only charge if they collect. And they usually collect at the end, they always collect at the end of the case, or they don't charge at all. That's very routine in New York, and the usual fee is about a third of whatever was recovered. You have an option, of course. If you had money and you want to hire a lawyer and you say, don't give me that third fee. I'm going to pay you by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
And some lawyers will do that, but it's very uncommon because the truth is very few people can afford that.
Yeah, I can't imagine why I'd want to do that.
Because it might be cheaper.
Add up. Really? So it could be less than the third that I would eventually get. I see. Okay. But that's a gamble most
Correct.
people can't take and
Right.
don't
And
have the
not
money
many
to
lawyers
front
want
it.
that.
Right. Okay. So let's do another scenario. This guy wasn't drunk. He was an illegal immigrant, undocumented, no papers, no insurance. Does that change anything?
It could change a few things. Same scenario. He has no insurance. The lady has a home policy she can go after. She's good. However, let's assume she has no home. Her dad doesn't own a car. Her mom doesn't own a car.
Right.
Guess what? Your
It's on
insurance
me
company might be on the hook for uninsured motorist provision. Okay?
Okay.
Let's take it the next step. Let's assume you did not pay your premiums that day. You forgot because you were busy.
It happens once, and I just can never
It
live
happens.
this
It
down.
happens to everybody, except me, of course.
Right.
So you forget you forget to pay your premium.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that day you have an accident.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the lady can't go after the drunk because maybe has no policy, undocumented, uninsured, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You
Forgot to pay.
neglected to pay your policy.
Right.
So fortunately, the injured party is not out of luck. She can go after the New York State called Motor Vehicle Accident Indemnification Corporation. New York State set up an agency, an organization that pays uninsured people to protect them. The maximum you can collect isn't as much as it would be. It'd be the minimum of New York law, which is about $25,000 per person, $50,000 per incident. But it's better than nothing.
Okay. So just based on your experience, given a case like this, and I mentioned someone broke their leg, let's say the other party had insurance, was a regular citizen, whatever, broke a leg. How long does this whole thing take? When can I expect this whole thing to be done? And we'll start with that time frame.
Two ways to look at it.
Okay.
Number one, the insurance company settles. Number two, the insurance company does not settle.
Okay.
And you're stuck filing a claim in court. Okay? Let's assume they settle. They'll settle only after they determine that they're at fault
Mm-hmm.
and they agree what it's worth.
Okay.
At that point, they make an offer, and it's up to you to decide to accept or reject. You and your lawyer would advise you what they think.
Okay.
Based on their experience, they would tell you what they recommend.
Normally, what they offer, would it actually cover the medical costs that the kid had to?
Once again, medical costs are paid by no fault. That's separate
So
from the
that
person.
we don't have to
injured.
worry about that.
You generally not.
Okay.
Generally not. Up to $50,000. That usually covers most things.
Does it though? A broken leg?
Yeah, it could. Unless
Okay.
there's a complication, surgery, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and multiple surgeries.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's assume the first case.
Yeah.
Straightforward. Do the medical costs get paid directly by the insurance company? How do I have to pay them first? Do I get reimbursed?
No, what you
what's
do
the
is
process?
you sign an application for no-fault benefits.
Okay,
You submit it to your insurance company. You tell them who your providers are.
okay.
And now the providers submit the claims directly to the insurance company, and they
So,
get paid
so
directly.
I'm doing this on behalf of my daughter's best friend, or her parents are doing
Actually,
it?
the lawyers
does it?
for your best friend are doing it.
Oh,
You
okay.
do nothing.
So I don't have to actually
You
get
do
involved
nothing.
with this.
The only thing
Alright.
you're required to do is tell them, here's my insurance card.
Contact them.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
You don't have to say
So,
anything.
The kid. Who broke her
one more
leg.
thing, you are supposed to submit a statement to New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. Your daughter is actually.
A statement.
Yeah, saying it's called an MV 104, a statement of how the accident happened, and you ship it up to Albany.
How, what if you don't know about this though?
Your lawyer would advise you, and many people don't. But you're supposed to do that. Problem is, that statement can come back and haunt you if you didn't prepare it properly. You know, so it's best to do it with some
So,
advice.
again, we
Because if
need
you
a
lie, say the truth, but say it properly.
Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna say.
A lot of little
You
holes.
didn't say just now to lie, right? You didn't say that.
Certainly not to lie.
No.
You say the truth.
Say the truth and say it properly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because if you make one mistake, it's going to make you look like a liar.
Okay, so she's got to do this. We need a lawyer. The girl needs a lawyer. They make sure her bills get paid. The insurance company pays them.
Right.
Is this months, weeks, years? What are we
Months.
talking about?
Months could be years. So,
Okay.
what I didn't mention was your insurance company. Let's assume you're sued
Mm-hmm.
by the lady,
Okay.
by the girl.
Okay.
Okay, and fortunately, and you're insured. Let's assume that
Mm-hmm.
your insurance company's responsibility is to defend and indemnify. That means hire lawyers
Okay.
and protect your interests.
Okay.
And should they determine there's some sort of fault and some sort of liability, meaning financial exposure, they're required to settle within the limits of the policy. Okay? Failure to do so puts them at risk.
So when you said, do they get me the lawyer or do I get my own lawyer?
They get the lawyer.
Oh, so I don't even have to
No.
seek out my own lawyer.
No, they have their own.
Okay. Well, that makes things a little easier.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go and retain a
No,
lawyer.
no.
The insurance company
Yeah.
will take care of that. Okay. Now, so normally the bills will be paid up to $50,000.
Right.
That
Now
normally
that
takes
$50,000
care.
includes lost earnings, by the way.
Right. So I was going to say, let's say she's kind of a little greedy now. She doesn't just want her medical bills paid now. She's like claiming, I don't know, pain and suffering, whatever. And so
It's
what
not
happens?
greedy. I wouldn't call that greedy.
Okay.
I'd call it normal.
Okay.
Because not only has she economically been disadvantaged, her quality of life has gone down. Okay?
Okay.
Either significantly or not so significantly. But that is what would determine the value of the settlement figure that would be proposed by the insurance company and
Mhm.
either accepted or rejected by plaintiff's counsel. Plaintiff is the person who starts a lawsuit.
Okay. So that extra money, though, that's again my insurance company will take care of that, and normally the settlement will cover all
Correct.
these things to
Yes.
everybody's
Yeah.
satisfaction,
Yeah.
including the lawyer's fee.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's including everything.
Okay.
Or they won't settle. And they won't, what I mean by settlement is
Mhm.
if they put an offer,
Mhm.
general release.
Okay.
And that means you're releasing them generally,
Mhm.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't cut a check unless they receive that signed document.
So she can't change her mind 6 months from now and say, "Oh, and also I want."
She can try and it won't work.
Okay. All right. So let's say it's a little worse. Let's say it's more serious. Let's say it requires several surgeries. She's out of school for a year. I mean, is this something that could potentially bankrupt me?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, let's assume she has $1 million injury, whatever that is. Okay? And you only had a $100,000 policy. Who pays the $900,000 difference?
Right. That was what I was going to ask you about. You started to talk about policy limits, and I really didn't know. How do you know? How do you know what to pick?
Well,
what's the right thing
when
to
you
do?
go visit a broker and you say it's time to buy insurance,
Mm-hmm.
your broker should be asking you, well, do you own a house? Do you have a job? What kind of work do you do? What's your annual income? That kind of thing. To decide, do you need a big policy, a little policy, a medium policy? And that's their job.
Okay.
Generally, the more the better, because the truth is, the larger the policy, it's very incrementally more expensive, but tiny. It's a
Okay.
very small amount to get you a bigger policy.
So having $100,000 policy, it doesn't really protect me. Getting $1 million policy may cost a little more, but
And it's not
Will
much
protect
more.
me.
It will protect
Okay.
you, yeah.
so the bankruptcy scenario
Yeah.
is.
Now,
what
let's
it's like.
assume just that. Let's assume there's a case.
Mhm.
Goes to court. It goes to verdict. A jury says you owe them $1 million and you only have 100 policy. Here's what happens. Your insurance company cuts a check for 100 and says, good luck to you.
Okay.
Okay? Now,
So
you have a
besides.
choice.
Yeah.
Do you file bankruptcy? You can do that.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people do because of that, for
Okay.
example. You know? And it's a whole other issue. But depending on what your assets are, generally, honestly speaking,
Mhm.
plaintiff's lawyers are not stupid. They've been around the block. They know a millionaire will have $1 million policy.
Right.
It's very rare that you have a guy with $1 million sitting in their account and they have a $25,000 policy. Okay.
So what you're saying is they probably wouldn't go after me because they know I don't have that to give.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And,
So
and they don't really gain anything by putting
Correct.
me in bankruptcy.
correct.
Okay.
And sometimes your insurance company will protect you by saying, this claim might be worth more than 100. So we advise you to get a private attorney, unpaid for by the insurance,
Okay.
to protect you for any claim that goes beyond 100. And it would be his job to make sure that that case settles within the policy. And that would cost you a little bit, but it's again worth it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are there any other questions that your clients usually come to you with that we haven't
Yeah.
covered?
Oftentimes they come to me too late to file a claim.
Okay. So
Okay.
what is the time frame that this has
In
to be?
New York law, let's assume it's just for medical bills only.
Mhm.
Let's assume you got into a small motor vehicle accident,
Mhm.
but you didn't think it was serious, you kind of ignored it, and all of a sudden it starts hurting and whatever, and your bills, and then you start seeking treatment, and you're not even aware that there's a no-fault law. You start paying out of pocket, or you have your own private insurance company,
Right.
and somebody tells you like a year later, by the way, no-fault insurance could have paid that. You said, what? And then you had 30 days to file your no-fault claim, and you didn't.
30 days.
30 days. And some 30 days go by faster than others. So
Yeah.
those will quickly go,
Yeah.
and you can lose your claim. So,
So 30 days.
correct.
Wow. Okay. I'm sure that most people aren't aware of that.
Pretty
and
sure.
I mean, especially if you're in the hospital or whatever,
Right.
You might not even be out of the hospital.
And you don't
That's-
care.
That's not, yeah.
Exactly.
That's the last thing on your mind.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we've covered most of the
I think so.
questions.
Again, just remember, not all injuries are serious. Not all motor vehicle accidents result in serious injuries.
Mm.
And I mentioned some like death, disfigurement.
Dismemberment.
Some people still want to pursue a claim.
Mhm.
And there's a little loophole to the serious injury requirement. That last loophole is what lawyers hang their hat on if
Okay.
they don't have a serious injury. And that is that you're unable to do your customary and usual activities for a period of 90 out of 180 days immediately following the accident, which means whatever you think that means.
So let's just say I banged my head and I don't even really have a concussion necessarily, or it's not diagnosed or documented, but I have really bad headaches or neck pain or something for
And you don't go to
the
work,
next 3 months and I can't work.
or you miss school,
Right.
something that you usually do for 90 days.
So
For the
that
next 180, you don't do it.
Could be a loophole that I could
Exactly.
still, it's not necessarily the definition of a serious injury, but I can maybe file a claim. for
Right,
that.
right.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great to know. Can you think of anything else that
It's
we
just if you have any issue, don't sleep on it.
don't sleep on it? That's right.
That's it.
And call a lawyer right away.
That's it.
Raymond Regis is with the law firm.
Regis PLLC. We've been doing this over 20 years. So, any questions? Let us know.
Well, thank you, viewers. Once again, this has been Law Talk New York and Beyond. Glad to have you and hope to see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.